we say anything stupid, we can edit we can edit it out.
You're gonna spend a lot of time editing.
Yes, that's really like I just did a 15-minute podcast with Joe Exotic, and it will take me hours and hours of editing. The problem is I had to have my microphone turned way up so he could hear it through Bluetooth, and it's really loud on the video.
All right, nice. All right.
So,
What's been going on this week?
well, just work, kids, life.
Nice.
Andrew Fern,
Vice President.
Vice President of the HOA board. Yep. So I guess we got to think of an interesting topic that people want to hear about. So I'm thinking about how you betrayed your company or you betrayed your country and became an American citizen.
Yeah.
What did that process look like? You know, you leave England and you come over here, and now you're an American. What's the difference? Similarities? What kind of talk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I first came here probably 22 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer. I worked for Hilton Hotels down in Marco Island, South Florida.
Okay.
Came back on and off on like a student visa kind of thing, did like work experience. Basically, it was work for money to drink, to do it all over again for about 6 months over summer. And I always wanted to come back, so I finished school. And started on, I think the first thing was like an investment visa.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we had a restaurant here that failed miserably.
What kind of restaurant?
It was downtown Winter Haven. It was like American. It had like English dishes, like the usual cottage pie, although we called it shepherd's pie because that whole thing. But yeah, it was going pretty well for a couple of years, and then it's high rents, and obviously we didn't do well enough. So
Right.
But then obviously, since then, worked through getting a green card and then citizenship. So now you can't kick me out.
No.
So, but I do have both passports still, so I can play the line when it comes to airports.
Gotcha. So the restaurant failed, and then what?
So actually, we had to work for ourselves. The terms of our visa was you had to work for yourself. So we used to clean bank-owned homes. So it would be back in 2012.
Okay, yeah, I remember
We'd have
that.
crews that go in and clear out war zones
Right.
in bank-owned homes. And it was, I had a few days off where we were cleaning the house, and I ran out the house and just threw up and was just sick as all anything because it was just rough. And we were doing a lot of this cleaning, and realtors had come through afterwards who were going to list it and start critiquing our level of cleaning.
Right, a
It's like,
foreclosure.
Yeah, and if you saw how bad it was before, but
Right.
they didn't care. They wanted you to come out and were like, well, why don't we go get a real estate license and be on the other end of this?
There you go.
And so
That's how we met, and the rest is history. I remember going in one, and the bar's like, it doesn't have carpet. This is you can't live here. I'm like, well, you should have seen what was on the carpet. There's a reason why it had
the chalk
excrement and dirty diapers. It was just easier just to roll it up and throw it away. There was no cleaning it. So and then you put the carpet down, and then the buyers don't like that color or whatever. So it's just like, well, you just put down whatever you want.
So then I went and met a few brokers. You being one of them. It was mid-Florida at the time.
Yeah.
And this is the 11th year at the same brokerage with the same
people.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. Was it a hard decision to become an American citizen, or is it?
No, it really came down to having a son. And I was like, you never know what changes in the future.
Right.
You never want to be deported. So, it really came down to that. And every time I flew back into the country, customs always wanted to have a chat. And traveling with a 3 or 4 year old, I don't want any extra time on the flight. And they're like, why aren't you a citizen? And I can't say I don't want to be.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why do you keep coming here? Well, you got me.
So being in living at least a young adult life in England versus here, which is better? Which country is better? I guess maybe for opportunity, just take away the cultural aspect of it, say the food and things like that. But I guess more you would say the business or the prosperous side.
Yeah, growing up, I love growing up in England, and I still miss the culture. But the good thing is when I go back for 10 days or 2 weeks, I get my fill,
Yeah.
And then I get to come back. And really the main thing to pulling me here is the weather. Like, if you pull up a graph, I did on ChatGPT, pull out the days of sunlight you get in England
Right.
versus Florida, and it's like, I don't think the sun comes up sometimes in England.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people around the country that you don't have to be from England to think that,
Yeah.
for Florida at least.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the application's really kind of funny, though. It's a standard set of questions that they ask you at the embassy.
Uh-huh.
And some of them make sense. It's
Right.
just like, are you planning to overthrow the government? And it's like, well, if I was, you're not going to fool me with that one.
Yeah.
And then weird ones like, have you ever kicked a dog? Have you ever hurt an animal? And it's like,
Yeah.
these are pretty easy ones to answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they just pick off a list and
Yeah.
and go for it.
So I guess if you were to start a business or a family or just that overall like entrepreneurial spirit, is it better to be in England, in your opinion, or here, specifically Florida?
It's hard because when I left England, I'd just come out of university and
Yeah.
I didn't really know what the big wide world had for me. I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for a little while, which is an American company.
Yeah.
And kind of worked up to their upper management levels, but it was just like they get their hours out of you,
Right.
And it's just it just wasn't for me. I mean, who really goes into life thinking my dream job is to rent cars?
All right. Who knows?
But yeah,
Some people.
yeah. So yeah, and now here I am, vice president of the HOA.
Vice president of the HOA. Yeah.
So
How's the food over there? Better?
I like it, but everybody who comes from here feels like England's like food is like tasteless and stuff like that. But I will say here, the steaks, the chicken wings, Mexican food. We don't have very many
Right.
Mexican people in England. I think it's changing in a big cities. I think they've got a lot more influence. But here you don't have the curry. The Indian food isn't
Right.
as good, which my wife will be happy to hear because she hates the smell of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw a meme once. It was a picture of British food, and it was like they literally, Great Britain fought wars for the spice trade, and this is the stuff that they eat. This is ridiculous.
What I love about so we've got a big, not to get political, but kind of a immigration issue in England. A lot of people coming to England from war-torn countries, and they travel through Europe, and a lot of people in England complaining about it. And what's funny is, years ago, obviously, Britain went traveling through all these countries,
Right.
colonizing them all,
Right.
telling them how great England was and how Britain was, and
Yeah.
now we're surprised that they've all come to see us. It's like,
Oh yeah.
they it's how great it is. Oh, well,
Instead
we'll
of-
come see you.
Instead of going to there, they're
Yeah.
coming over there. So
Yeah. So, but we're only a little island, so there's only so many people you can take on.
yeah, I went over there. I think in 2005. It was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't spend that much time, but it's nice.
Yeah.
Nice to travel abroad. What are the kind of like the differences, similarities, whatever?
Obviously, everything is closer,
Right.
Like more packed together. So here in England, you can go to a town and you can go walking to maybe 8 or 9, 10 pubs that
Right.
are all stumbling distance.
There
So it doesn't matter how drunk you get because you can just fall into
Right.
the next one. Here, you've got to figure out how you're going to get there, and obviously
Yeah.
now Ubers. But everything's spread out a little bit. Everything's obviously a lot bigger.
Yeah. Well, we have some cities like that here.
Yeah.
People say, well, the transit system's not like it is in London. Well, those cities were built before cars were even
Yeah.
thought of,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Walking or a horse and buggy was about the best you were going to get. So it naturally is closer and
Yeah.
smaller because that's just the way it evolved.
I looked once because I didn't have a car for whatever reason. I don't know. And trying to get from Lakeland to Winterhaven would have taken me about 3 hours. This was about 10 years ago. 3 hours, and it involved like 5 different buses.
Yeah.
I'll get,
Forget.
I'll
And
get
then
there
once
tomorrow.
you get there, then what do you do?
Yeah, yeah.
Now you're just standing on some street corner and like, okay, the next thing's a mile away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see that. Where was I recently? Like you go to Washington D.C. and you can walk to a bunch of places like that. And the bigger, older cities are.
Yeah.
People. Oh, the walkability. I'm like, yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
Built in a different time. I noticed the one thing I like about England, versus say over here, Lakeland, Florida specifically, unless maybe St. Augustine, is a lot of the buildings have a lot of history. It's like, oh, that building was built in the 1400s, and that
Yeah.
building was built in the 1300. So
Yeah.
we don't have like these beautiful buildings and like the rich history with the
Yeah.
architecture. It just doesn't exist because our maybe in Lakeland, that was built in the 1890s
Yeah.
if it's still standing. So we don't have a lot of that.
My parents' house is an old farmhouse, and I think it's like parts of it are like 450 years old.
Yeah.
They cracked open my sister's wall when she was born, and they were redoing it, and it had what they call lath and plaster, which is basically straw and mud.
Okay.
And that's what was inside the walls.
Yeah.
And of course, my parents weren't expecting that. But
Sure.
it's funny though, they came over here, and I think it was about 2010. Grady Judd, some guy had chased after the police were chasing a guy, and they shot him a lot. And Grady Judd goes, the reporter says, "Why did you shoot him so many times?" And Grady Judd goes, "We would have shot him more, but we ran out of bullets."
Right. I remember that.
And the Today and Tonight magazine had a picture of Grady Judd and two sheriffs in like Wild West
Right.
uniforms. We don't have guns in England, so my parents are like, come over for the first time, and they're like, "Where are you living?" I was
Polk
like,
County.
Yeah. I was like, well, if you get pulled over, you do as you're told, I guess. So
Yeah, I was just over in Sebastian, Florida. There was a guy. I had to go into a building. He checked my ID, and he wasn't from Florida, and he obviously is not in Polk County. He's like, "Oh, you're from Polk County, where Grady Judd is." Like, I love your sheriff. Like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
a little bit of history of Lakeland, though. We do have some ties to England as the Swans.
Yeah, I heard, did the Queen
Gave-
donate them?
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah.
In the 50s.
I heard Prince Charles wants them back.
Does he?
Yeah, he's not going to get it.
Well, it's not Prince Charles anymore.
No. Yeah, King Charles.
King Charles, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the whole deal with the royal stuff? I thought about that recently, and the pomp and circumstance, all that, and then I was in D.C. for the inauguration, and I'm like, this is a lot like that. People line up at the streets
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it, but it was fun.
They're expensive
Yeah.
to keep around, but I'm kind of nostalgic and kind of grew up with it. I remember exactly where I was when Lady Diana hit the bridge.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So you kind of get nostalgic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Never really been a fan of Prince Charles. But
King Charles.
King Charles.
What
now.
about the other one, Andrew?
Well, yeah, we don't talk about. Yeah, we put him in with Bruno. We don't talk about him. But we've got William and Harry. I kind of want Harry to, not that he is going to, but I kind of want Harry next just to see what kind of chaos he can cause. But
Yeah, what's the deal with all that? Harry and Meghan and
yeah, well, they came over here pretty much for the money, right? They did the documentaries and the stories. So I think William's the next one. Next one. He's about the same age as me. I think a year younger than me.
you're supposed to know all that. I don't know.
He'll be king. I'll still be vice president of the HOA.
Right, but you do have a lordship title.
I do, yeah.
All right.
In fact, in my car, you can have your profile in the car
Yes.
because my wife has her presets and I have mine. And mine says Lord Fern, which she hates. The first day we got the car, I was like, I'm putting that in. But now I have to change it to VP. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. You can go to the HOA and say, we're going to run this more like a monarchy than we are a democracy, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had our neighborhood just got turned over to the association.
Okay.
And we had to form a board, and 6 people were running. And just for a bit of a laugh, the morning of the nominations, I decided to throw my name in the hat, and everybody that was running put in like a serious, this is why I should
Right.
run. This is what I do for a living, my leadership skills, my experience. And I thought, well, I'll do the opposite. And I'll give you like a sarcastic why I shouldn't be there.
Right.
And at the end, it said, if you vote for me, this is on you. And so I'm sat there at the meeting at the library, and the whole neighborhood's there. And they do votes and
Right.
secretly count it behind a screen. And they came out and they said, yeah, you're serving for 1 year. I didn't get the 3-year sentence,
Okay.
but I got the 1-year sentence. And I was just like, you people, what have you done? You're causing chaos.
Yeah.
So,
What's one thing you miss about being back home?
probably friends, family.
Yeah. Other than that, everybody misses their friends and family.
Yeah. Pubs.
But pubs.
Yeah. I do miss the countryside. Like this is,
Yeah.
it's just you can find countryside here if you go out
Right.
to
Florida's pretty flat.
yeah.
You know. Unless
But
you're
it's,
at the beach, it's
yeah, and it's different. a different landscape. One thing I do miss is at Christmas time.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can be nice and cool here, but
Right.
sometimes it can still be like 30 degrees.
Right.
It's like, I don't feel very Christmassy. If I'm sweating opening
Yeah.
my Christmas presents, that's not.
Favorite pub in England?
Well, there's a couple. There's the Town Hall and the Bull, which is where I come from, a very small town.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually when you go there, you can bump into people that you've not seen for years.
Right.
And then it goes downhill from there. But yeah, usually when I go back, I meet up with my brother, occasionally my sister. She lives in London, so she's a little further out. But
Favorite pub or bar, whatever you want to call it here?
Where do I like going here? It's a good question. I don't know.
No?
Yeah, I've got too many kids now. I don't
Yeah.
really see the inside of a bar very much.
Oh, well,
So.
it's Friday.
Yeah, the kids can stay at school. I won't pick them up.
There you go. Radio will
Nice.
get you.
Yeah.
So, well, what else you got going on?
Not a whole lot. No, not much. Going out for dinner this weekend for our wedding anniversary with a few friends. So that'll be good fun.
Cool.
I just went to. I did a video at the Hard Rock. They brought back the Harvest Buffet.
Oh, yeah.
it's pretty
I'd
good.
like to go
Yeah.
there. Did you go?
Yeah, Wednesday they've got a 90-minute eating limit.
Oh.
So yeah, you gotta eat quick.
It'll be they'll be pulling me out of there like the Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger that meme. They're picking them up. What did I do?
Yeah, you sit down and they put a timer on your table. Eat up, fatty.
They do?
No. But yeah, it's really good. I've tried to do more social media content, not just tours of houses and
Right.
interesting stuff about the area. My video editing skills aren't the best, but
That's
it's
like
all
I
about
said. That's
putting it
the
out
hardest part.
there. Yeah,
That's the biggest pain. So,
yeah, it's just about putting it out there. So
all right. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's it for today.
yeah,
Got to
All
keep
right.
them short.
Yep.
Because then people just won't listen.